So this is a presentation on color in street art. So here we are, into October. No doubt as the gray days of late fall are making us think about having to brace for that first snowstorm, let's consider the impact that street art color has on architecture that it never asked for. We're not the first to think of hues, shades, tones, and palettes when it comes to the man-made environment, of course. But it does strike us that most buildings are hit up by street art, and murals today were designed by architects who never imagined art on their facades. Considering that street artists have been part of the conversation on the street for decades now, they have been making powerful suggestions to architects and city planners. So maybe it's worth taking another look at what they've been up to lately. Modern architecture, for some reason, is still primarily gray, washed-out greens, beige, eggshell. According to the internationally known and awarded architect Benedetta Tabubu, color is something that architects are usually afraid of. A generalization perhaps, and you can always find exceptions of colorfully painted neighborhoods globally, like the Haight in San Francisco, La Boca in Buenos Aires, Portofino in Italy, Guanajuato in Mexico, Beaucamp in Cape Town, the favelas in Rio de Janeiro, and the Blue City of India, but many of those examples speak to color, blocking, and pattern. We're looking at the power of street art to reface, recontextualize, re-energize, and reimagine a building and its place in the neighborhood. Sometimes it is successful, other times it may produce a light vertigo. The impact of artwork on buildings by today's street artists and muralists depends not only on the content and the composition, but largely on the palette that they've chosen. It sounds trite and self-evident perhaps, but much of street art is about color, and primarily on the warm scale, first described by Faber Baron with his Osha colors and the color circle in the 1930s. Baron developed his color system with the observation that artists favor warm colors more than cold, from the violet side of red and extending beyond yellow, because their effect is more dynamic and intense, and because the eye can, in fact, distinguish more warm colors than cold. It's common now to think of 21st century street art as graffiti influenced, primarily activated by the detritus of the abandoned industrial sectors blighting western cities in the wake of trade agreements, that sent all the jobs to land without protections and regulations. While that is definitely the sort of neglected factory architecture preferred for active graffiti artists and street artists alike, we also see more curious couplings of color that are delicately ornate and regal, or even modernist structures today thanks to artists being invited rather than chased. The result? Abstractionist, cubist, geometric, letter-based, illustrative, figuratively based outsider folk Dadaist pop. One common denominator is color. The environment and its colors are perceived, and the brain processes and judges what it perceives on an objective and subjective basis. Frank H. Mankey wrote in his recent piece for Archinect, "Psychological influences, communication, information, and the effect on the psyche are aspects of our perceptual judgment process." Mankey, the author of Color, Environment, and Human Response, has made it his mission to explore psychological and biological effects of color and light, and to help creators of man-made environments make good choices. Whether all these choices are good is left up to you.